minus 5 minutes and counting.
There's been another mass shooting in America. This time in a
flood concerns at this hour tonight amid the storms hitting right now. It comes after that historic flooding in Maryland triggered by torrential rains, a human chain saving a woman, more than 100 others saved too. The power of that rushing water washing cars away as they were toys. The water tearing up the asphalt, this car almost buried underneath it. Ginger Z is standing by with the track of these new storms hitting right now, but first ABC's Gio Benitez with that dramatic human chain.
A desperate attempt to save a woman's life as a powerful flood engulfs Ellicott City, Maryland's historic district. This man first swept away by rushing waters, only to fight his way upstream to help form a human chain. Come on! 29-year-old Jamie Knight crawling out of her car window and finally pulled to safety. A simple message for those good Samaritans.
I'm grateful. I'm very thankful. I wish I knew his name.
This view from inside a restaurant, cars spinning downstream.
People started to freak out. So everybody was getting up and trying to figure out where to go.
Oh my God!
2 customers who went out into the storm lost their lives in what meteorologists are calling a 1 in 1,000 rain event.
You have your food still out there.
The top floor frozen in time, glasses still half filled, tabs still unpaid. And right now we're on the 2nd floor of this restaurant, but take a look down the stairs. The water came up about halfway up and just look, totally destroyed. That front room looks more like a war zone.
What goes through your mind when you think about this?
I'm glad most of everyone got out, really. I mean, it's the building, it's material, it's the people that matter. So our guys did the best they could.
The same disastrous storm system wreaking havoc across the region, from New Jersey to North Carolina.
5-year-old boy hit by lightning, CPR in progress.
Where lightning struck and took the life of a 5-year-old boy.
And Gio Benitez with us live tonight from Ellicott City. And Gio, we can see the cars right there behind you.
That's right, David. These cars are from that historic district. And if we were to guess, that's about 3 football fields away, so quite a ways from here. Really, it's going to show you just how powerful.
NASA plans to take a closer look at a big rock that could give the Earth a big jolt. The space agency is launching a study of a so-called Armageddon asteroid named Bennu. In about 120 years, Bennu may get close enough that the Earth's gravity pulls it towards us. Scientists say if it hit, the impact would be 200 times the strength of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
22 people are missing and dozens have been injured by landslides. Over 270 families were reportedly displaced. Nepal's Defense Minister Bin Rawal says the government has deployed military helicopters to carry out relief and rescue operations in flood-hit districts. The government has also allocated 750 million rupees, or around $7 million in aid.
The annual rains have come to Sudan, but this year they've got very heavy, very quickly. Entire villages have been swamped. This is all that's left of Barakat Tariq in Kassala state in northeastern Sudan. Most of it's been destroyed after the nearby El Gash River burst its banks.
These are our homes, damaged by the floods. We couldn't bring out anything, and we have nothing now.
We have lost everything that we have, even basic things. We haven't received any aid.
The rains come every year between June and October, but these have been particularly bad. Roads have been washed away, stranding thousands of communities. People brave the floodwaters by boarding makeshift rafts. Some cling to trees waiting to be rescued as the water level rises. Among the dead are said to be 3 children from the district of Hamish Khoreb. Hundreds of families are now living out in the open. The Kassala state government says it's struggling to deliver food, clean water and medical supplies.
We have distributed a very limited number of tents and mattresses. We've managed to provide some aid up to now.
People try to carry on their normal lives, but now there are fears of disease and pollution.
Now the latest on Typhoon Nida. Many cities in southern China have initiated their first ever red storm alert this year after the typhoon made landfall earlier today. Strong waves damaged a dam in Guangdong province. The typhoon also caused power outages, affecting more than 10,000 people. In Guangzhou, all work, production and school classes were suspended. Nearly 2,000 workers constructing the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge were evacuated, and more than 2,000 others on an offshore oil platform were also relocated. China's Weather Bureau said Typhoon Nida is the strongest storm to hit the Pearl River Delta since 1983. The agency alerted local officials and residents against severe flooding.
I am now at the eastern coastal line of Zhuhai, and as you can see that the seawater level has been rising significantly, and the waves have been blown by the strong winds, and they keep padding onto the pass. And actually, this is a pass leading to a symbolic statue of Zhuhai City, and now the pass is inundated with floods. But fortunately, this pass is not the main road, and according to what I saw just now, there was still about 1 meter left for the water level to reach the main road, to be as high as the main road. And the Zhuhai City has issued a red alert emergency response to cope with the situation. And actually, most of the areas in Guangdong province are now seeing heavy downpours and heavy winds triggered by the typhoon. And according to what I know, up to 7 a.m. this morning, the biggest amount of downpour was recorded in Heyuan City, which is located in the northeastern part of Guangdong province. The rainfall was recorded at 190 centimeters. And local authorities are watching closely in case of any emergencies or big disasters triggered by the typhoon, such as landslides or floods. But fortunately, now only some parts in the eastern parts of the Guangdong province, such as the cities of Shenzhen, Shanwei, there were reports of roads damaged and electricity supply partly cut off.
Nearly 500,000 tourists are expected to descend on Rio de Janeiro for the Olympic Games, which begin this week. And when they're not watching the competitions, many will hit the world-famous beaches.
If there's a pollution problem, it would be good for tourists to have information about it. But when you look at the water, it looks pretty.
But looks can be deceiving. The latest findings in a 16-month investigation by the Associated Press show that Ipanema and Copacabana are heavily polluted with viruses from human sewage.
We would never see anything close to this level of viruses in Florida.
Valerie Harwood from the University of Southern Florida reviewed the AP's findings.
It definitely is not of the type of water quality where you would want to take your family to the beach necessarily or be exposed long term to that water.
The beaches even violate Rio's own standards, which consider water to be polluted if it contains more than 2,500 fecal coliforms in 100 milliliters of water, which is about half a cup. Andre Correa, Rio's environmental secretary, says he's swum in the waters and he says they're fine.
Can you swim at the bay where the sailing competition is going to take place? Yes, you can. I did a dive there. Nature keeps renewing the water.
But water quality experts say locals, like Correa, have developed immunities to the viruses.
Nearly 100% of the people that contact the water will get infected, but getting sick will only happen to some of them, depending on their immunity level.
For visitors who are not immune, the potential for illness is real.
What they're really at the risk of is gastroenteritis, so for the most part, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea.
Professor Harwood says beachgoers need to be cautious.
I would say don't let your kids eat the sand and don't put your head underwater.
Tectonic plates shift, so do the world's countries. Australia has announced it will adjust its official latitude and longitude coordinates to match current satellite data. The continent down under has moved 1.5 metres since 1994, about the height of an average kangaroo. Australia's government science body says the country shifts north by about 7 centimetres each year. Slight changes can cause major headaches for people using GPS technologies that rely on precise location data. Australia's new coordinates will be published in January 2017.
In several of Australia's big cities, hundreds rallied to show their outrage and shock at the treatment of boys at a juvenile detention centre, and to call on the government to do more to investigate what happened and hold those responsible to account. And this is what prompted people to take to the streets. Video which aired on television earlier this week, showing a half-naked teenage boy restrained and wearing a hood. Other footage shows boys being tear-gassed, a guard allegedly hitting a juvenile, and another allegedly being pushed. The alleged mistreatment was filmed at the Dondale Detention Centre near Darwin, where large numbers of the inmates are Aboriginal youngsters.
That's the price they pay.
Australia's Prime Minister has announced an investigation will be held into the allegations, but there have been calls for it to examine centres in other parts of the country, not just the Northern Territory.
This is one of the most brutal, racist attacks on our young people that we have seen in the recent history of this country. And what's the government going to do? Send in a redneck judge to make an hypocrisy of this inquiry before it even starts.
Reacting to the allegations, a spokesman for the United Nations said some of the children were held in isolation for several weeks, in hot or dark cells with no access to fresh air or running water, and that many are deeply traumatised. Australia's Indigenous community make up just 3% of the Australian population, but there are concerns that Aborigines are disproportionately represented in the prison population.
They've been oppressed for the whole time of colonisation by the Australian states and government, and this has continued, it's worsened.
Incarceration and brutality is the experience of Aboriginal people in this country, and the response of government is the response of the people who are committing these atrocities.
Campaigners say they'll continue to try to improve the lives of Australia's young Aborigines. A final report into what happened at Dondale is expected to be released by the end of March next year. Emma Hayward, Al Jazeera.
This truck carrying corn flour and pasta never made it to the grocery store. Looting in Venezuela is on the rise. That's made being a food delivery truck driver one of the worst jobs to have. Events like the ransacking of this truck are William Alojuela's worst nightmare.
You have to take more and more precautions.
For example, you can't go to dangerous places, you have to go home earlier, and there are certain clients to whom you simply can't deliver anymore.
But William often has to drive through dangerous neighborhoods, like Betare in western Caracas, Venezuela's capital. He says he's already been kidnapped twice and can't even remember how many times he's been robbed.
Before, you ran the risk of common criminals wanting to steal your truck, but now you have to worry about the National Guard who want to extort you, or looters who want to take your load.
And it's only going to get worse. Scenes like this one have become the new normal. In June alone, there were on average 5 lootings or attempts at looting across the country every day. But that figure could be higher. This event we filmed was never reported.
People are sacking what they can, and they ransack a truck because they believe it has food and they want to satisfy their hunger. But they also feel they're exercising justice, because they feel that even if they have money, their salaries are no longer enough to buy food.
For the people waiting under the scorching sun in this queue, there is also the sense that things will never go back to how they were.
It's only getting worse. We are here because our cupboards are empty. We have been waiting here since 5 in the morning for just 2 small packages of flour, and then wait 8 days to be able to buy them again. Can you imagine how we feel?
The people in this crowd say hungry and above all, angry.
U.S. authorities have urged pregnant women not to travel to a Miami neighborhood after Florida detected 10 more cases of Zika caused by the bite of local mosquitoes, bringing the total to 14. U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, on Monday recommended pregnant women who have visited the 1 square mile area just north of downtown Miami to talk with their doctors and take tests for Zika. At Florida's request, the CDC is also sending an emergency response team to assist in the situation. On Friday, Florida Governor Rick Scott announced the first 4 locally spread cases of Zika in the continental United States. Before that, more than 1,600 Zika cases have been reported in the country, but none of which are locally spread cases. Most people infected with Zika will not have symptoms. However, Zika infection during pregnancy can cause a serious birth defect of the brain called microcephaly and other severe fetal birth defects.
هذا حطام الطائرة الله أكبر.
Video footage reportedly shows people gathering around what is said to be the wreckage of a Russian helicopter in the Syrian province of Idlib. In a statement, the Russian Defense Ministry confirmed a military helicopter on a humanitarian mission was shot down in the area, killing the 5 Russian military personnel on board. So far, nobody has claimed the responsibility. But around 40 kilometers from the crash site, rebel groups are staging an offensive to break a government siege on rebel-held parts of eastern Aleppo. Pro-government forces on the ground are being supported by heavy airstrikes in the area. This is now Russia's 3rd helicopter lost in the Syrian operation. In November 2015, it was a helicopter which took part in the rescue of the pilot shot down by the Turkish Air Force. In April, an attack helicopter crashed in the region of Homs, but the Defense Ministry insists it was not shot down. In July, an Mi-25 attack helicopter was shot down near Palmyra, killing 2 Russian pilots. Last week, Russia and Syria launched a humanitarian aid plan for the 300,000 civilians trapped in the besieged city of Aleppo. But the UN envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, said that Moscow should leave it up to the United Nations and its partners to handle humanitarian issues. Human rights groups and Western governments have accused Moscow of targeting moderate opposition groups and killing civilians. But Russia insists it is targeting terrorists who it says disguise as Syrian opposition
Democrats
groups.
now coming under fire, too, not just in the race for the White House, but by hackers. The Clinton campaign falling victim in a new attack. The big question tonight, are the Russians behind it? Today, Clinton on a bus trip through the battleground states of Pennsylvania and Ohio. Her husband, you can see right there with her. And ABC's David Wright is on the campaign trail tonight.
Authorities are trying to determine if the same Russian hackers they suspect of infiltrating the Democratic National Committee also gained access to computer software used by the Clinton campaign.
These incidents are under investigation.
It all may sound like the plot of a Cold War spy novel, but CIA Director John Brennan says it's not so far-fetched.
If there has been some manipulation of the election process here and system, this is going to be something that this government and our country is going to have to look at.
Leaked emails from the DNC wrought havoc this week at the Democratic National Convention, forcing the party chair to resign.
The threats in cyberspace are real, getting bigger every year. It's a huge challenge.
The hacks have also become an issue out on the campaign trail. Donald Trump has sought to link the hacking to the controversy over Hillary Clinton's private email server.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
The Trump campaign now says this seems to be a problem wherever Hillary Clinton goes. Hopefully this time there wasn't classified or top secret information that puts American lives at risk. The Clinton campaign says the best they can tell, the hack was limited to a program used to examine publicly available voter data. They insist that all of their internal systems are secure. But as Hillary Clinton continues her bus tour through the Rust Belt today, she herself hasn't been discussing.
And then when they showed Bernie very angry, they're talking about Bernie, because he made a bad deal. He should have not made a deal. He would have gone down and done something really important. Once he made that deal, and believe me, he has buyer's remorse. You know, this guy has buyer's remorse. He looked at that and he was so angry when they were talking about him, and his people are angry at him, and they should be. If he would have just not done anything, just go home, go to sleep, relax, he would have been a hero. But he made a deal with the devil. She's the devil. He made a deal with the devil. It's true. Like Bernie Sanders. You know, I told him, I said, the election's rigged with the superdelegates. It was rigged. He never had a chance. He never had a chance.
And possibly the type of missiles which were fired.
That's right, John. What we're hearing from U.S. Strategic Command is they believe there were 2 missiles, as you say. South Korean military earlier thought it was just one, but they say they believe that they are the Rodong missiles, an intermediate-range missile, which would account for South Korea, for Japan in its range. It could also potentially, if it flies correctly, reach Guam. So certainly a big concern for those in the region when these intermediate-range missiles are tested. We've also heard from Japan. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe condemning this, saying it's a considerable threat for our national security. It is believed, according to Japanese officials and the defense officials there, that this actually landed, the one that did not explode on takeoff, actually landed within or near the Japanese economic zone. Now, this is a body of water that's controlled by Japan, so certainly Japanese officials very concerned by this.
Joining me now, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Mark Eiglarsh and criminal rights and defense attorney Ann Dell Brown. Wow. Mark, that...
All her. Anybody who dares point the finger at law enforcement is either being intellectually dishonest or somehow really doesn't know the facts in this case. They were overly cautious. They could have shot her right away when they came in and then held back, 6 hours they waited. And when they came in, both with the words that she used, "I will kill you," coupled with the action, not putting down this shotgun, they had to take action. She caused her death.
Andel, do you agree?
In a situation like this, a picture's worth 1,000 words and a video is priceless. Here, we have the police account of the events, but we also had police accounts in the Walter Scott case, Laquan McDonald case, Tamir Rice case, where facts that were reported did not match up once we had a video. When we have citizens who feel the need, like in the Philando Castile or the Alton Sterling, to record interactions with police because the body cameras fell off, they aren't working, or whatever the case may be, it shows we have an issue with the trust and transparency and accountability.
That's not what she asked you.
Look at her. This is her with the gun. This is her with a shotgun, Mark Eiglarsh. This, I mean, that's on video.
That's what we're told. That's not what we see.
What? So what are you suggesting, Andel? Are you going to manufacture
facts? What I'm suggesting is in a city like Baltimore that was just rocked with the Freddie Gray, there should be using body cameras in this case.
They just got the body cameras a couple of weeks ago. They're implementing that in Baltimore.
Well, great. We need to see what happened. That's all I can say. I can't make assumptions like Mark that it's all her without seeing what happened, because I've seen police reports that turned out not to be true once we saw the video.
But Mark Eiglarsh, we are seeing. This is video from the moment this went down.
We can play Andel's generic game. I've made it before. Hold on. Andel, we'll go with what you're saying. You could throw out that generic comment all day long. We never know because we weren't there. We haven't seen reports, and sometimes reports are wrong. You're correct. But here's the question. Based upon what they're reporting, are you conceding that this was a justified shooting?
Mark, what I'm saying is I'm not just going to go with what they report.
The answer is yes or no.
When we go into a court of law, Mark, you don't control this interview. When we go into a court of law, we make sure we're very sure before we take someone's freedom.
You just can't say the word,
we go through many steps before we take someone's life.
And Andel, it was a hypothetical.
Hold on a second, guys. Hold on a second.
The people deserve to see and evaluate whether they're correct or incorrect.
Okay,
we have to keep the government honest.
To your point, to Andel's point, the video of her loading up that gun was apparently from 2 weeks earlier. It wasn't this. This was 2 weeks earlier. It wasn't in the moment that she had the confrontation with the police, who say she did have the long gun, who you can hear discussing with her son on the video she believes they're trying to kill her. And there's a question about her mental state, Mark. I mean, I don't know whether this woman was okay emotionally or mentally, and the police would not confirm whether she had a history of mental health issues. But here she is, just a couple of weeks earlier when she had the confrontation with police. She was pulled over. She didn't have a license plate. She considered herself a sovereign citizen. She didn't recognize the authority of the U.S. law enforcement agents. She demanded to see their authority cards. And this is a confrontation. This is a piece of tape from back then. Watch.
You know they're talking about stealing my vehicle. Hey, Cody, they tell you get out this car or take your seatbelt off. You do not get out this car. Do you understand? You better fight they asses. Fight them. Do you hear me? And they will have to kill me today.
No, nobody wants to.
They will have to. They will have to in front of my children and everything. While y'all burn in hell. All y'all pigs.
Right, so she's telling her child he has to get out. I think it's her 5-year-old. He has to get out and fight the police. That they're going to have to kill her to get her out of the car. The officer asked for her license and registration. She refuses to show it. She demands to see his authority card. He shows it to her. So the question is whether this person was of sound mind, and whether the police, if that is the case, had an obligation to do more to not engage in a shootout with this person.
Okay, here's my take on her. I will defend her right to spew her outrageous and offensive speech, even y'all pigs, like she said at the end. She has a constitutional right to say that. But her constitutional rights end when she begins to resist and obstruct officers, as she did in that scenario, but worse, when she shows violence, when she has a gun aimed at law enforcement officers who didn't wake up wanting to kill anybody that day. They just wanted to go home to their families, and she created a scenario that led to her tragic demise.
Go ahead, Andel. I'll give you the last word.
In this circumstance, it is absolutely a tragedy whenever someone loses life or liberty. In this country where life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness are high ideals, we take it very seriously. So I just want to make sure that in every one of these instances, we have the transparency and accountability to keep our government honest, from the cops on the street all the way up to the White House. That's what the people deserve, and that's what we want.
Great to see you both.
Houston 6 shares of Smith & Wesson stock at an all-time high Monday, despite closing down nearly 2% today. Monday's boost came the same day the FBI reported it processed more than 2 million background checks last month. That's 600,000 more than July 2015. Smith & Wesson stock has increased 38% since January. Gun sales have been on the rise, along with worries about new regulation.
A lot of people feel that, they want to purchase their firearms and own it before it's made illegal, so that way they quite possibly could be grandfathered in.
Gun maker Sturm Ruger has seen their shares increase 16% since January 1st. Both Sturm Ruger and Smith & Wesson have been seeing big gains in value following several mass shootings.
Remember, we say it all the time, but turn around, don't drown. We've already seen cars going through washes. The driver that you see here as we zoom in got stuck. That driver is doing okay. This was along the Carefree Highway and 3rd Street.
And we found even more cars getting stuck on the road as well, Faye.
ABC 15's John Erickson joins us live. He's at 10th Avenue and the Carefree Highway. John, how's it looking there?
This is the third spot we found this afternoon, guys, in this general area, far north Phoenix, where it's either been a water rescue or a car stuck like this one is right here. Look to the right, the big Dodge Ram taking a chance with it here, trying to turn his truck into the river, or turn the truck into a boat this afternoon. Looks like he's doing okay. Certainly not is what is recommended, because as you can see from what happened to the much smaller vehicle, the Honda Civic, it looks like it got stuck in the road here and then washed over to the side. There's a tow truck on scene that'll work to pull this one out. This is the second vehicle that had this happen to it at this very location. Deputies on scene told me that no one was hurt. And the other locations, which we streamed both on Facebook Live, an older woman got stuck on a road just like this one in her Cadillac. She couldn't get out, water about this deep. Two Good Samaritan neighbors helped her free. She's okay. And then another one, also within about a 1-mile radius of this area, 10th Avenue Carefree Highway. A car got stuck in the road. The people got out of the car, and then the water washed that gold Mercedes out into the desert. After we wrap up here, we're going to try to go find that car. But at this location, and the other two, the good news is, guys, no one has been hurt, but vivid examples of why you don't want to get anywhere near water that is rising on the roadways.
Now first stage performance. T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
There's been another mass shooting in America. This time in a